Alright, so today we are going to discuss about the continuation part of the previous session where we have talked about the production of the aqueous humor. Today we are going to discuss about the circulation and drainage mechanism of the aqueous humor. So today we are going to discuss about the circulation and the drainage of the aqueous humor. So first of all, let me make a diagram. So on the last session we have discussed that how the production of aqueous humor takes place. So this is our sclera, this is iris, ciliary body, choroid, this is our cornea from the anterior part, and here in between there is a crystalline lens which is placed here, and the production of the aqueous humor from the ciliary body or from the posterior chamber to the anterior chamber. So we have lens is very happy here because lens gets its nourishment from the aqueous humor, and also from the posterior part there is a vitreous which provides some nourishments. So basically what actually happens here, the crystalline lens and the corneal endothelium, these two things, and the area here which is a complete avascular structure, this aqueous humor will provide the nourishment in these two structures, and also takes the waste products from them. So as you know that any particular organ will do the metabolic activity having their own reductive waste, so that wastage were absorbed by this aqueous. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the circulation and the drainage. As you know, in the circulation, the posterior chamber is the main production area of the aqueous humor, from where it will circulate with the help of this pupillary aperture here in between the iris. So this is a cross-sectional diagram. It is all around completely, but I am just making a cross-sectional diagram here. So this will go to the anterior chamber, and this area which is called a iridocorneal angle to this. So today we are magnifying this particular area here, and we will see how it works. So this is our ciliary body. And this is our iris. This is pupillary aperture. Okay. So particularly this area we are talking about, this is a cornea, and this angle in between the iris and the cornea is the iridocorneal angle. So the aqueous will circulate from the posterior chamber, and it comes and gives its exertion to the anterior chamber, and it will drains out from this iridocorneal angle. So in this iridocorneal angle we have the very important mechanism, a very important particular structure which is called a trabecular meshwork. a trabecular meshwork. A trabecular meshwork is the structure, a net-like structure here, from where the aqueous will be drained out just past the iodocorneal angle, and this is the Sklem's canal, the canal of Sklem. Canal of Sklem. So this aqueous will go to the trabecular meshwork and then it passes to the Sklem's canal. Okay, and this Sklem's canal are having collector channels, which will continue to the aqueous vein, and in this particular area we have a episcleral vein through which it will go to the ophthalmic veins. Okay, so these are the longitudinal, radial and circular ciliaris. This is our kind of ciliary stroma. This is our epithelium, as we know. Okay, so when the aqueous will pass from the posterior chamber to the anterior chamber, its first interaction with the iodocorneal angle here. So if I am the iris, this is the cornea, and in between the cornea and the iris there is a iodocorneal angle here. So iodocorneal angle is having the first part, which is called a trabecular meshwork, and from the trabecular meshwork it goes to the canal of Sklem, and from canal of Sklem, this is canal of Sklem, goes to the collector channels, and then it passes to the aqueous vein and to the finally the episcleral veins, and from the episcleral vein it will drain out to the ophthalmic veins. Okay, so what is very important to understand here, that the first and foremost thing is the circulation of the aqueous, that it is produced by the ciliary body in the posterior chamber, goes to the anterior chamber with the aperture and strikes to the first interaction in the iodocorneal angle, canal of Sklem, the trabecular meshwork, which is the very important part, and with the collector channels, aqueous vein and episcleral vein, it will drain out to the ophthalmic veins. Now, the very important thing here to understand is about the structure of trabecular meshwork and the canal of Sklem. So, let us make a big diagram here where we can understand the canal of Sklem and the trabecular meshwork. So, this is the canal of Sklem. These are the trabecular meshwork plates. And this is particular structure of this area. So what here we need to understand that this particular area of the trabecular meshwork is in between the Schlemm's canal, and it is a kind of mesh or a sheet, a filtered sheet, which help to pass the aqueous to the collector channels, aqueous vein and episcleral vein. So this is the first and foremost pathway, which is the conventional pathway from where the aqueous will drain out. Now there is a chances of having a disturbance in this pathway. What kind of disturbance it would be? Maybe the chances of any infection or inflammation will lead to a number of WBCs and RBCs and cell debris which will present in the anterior chamber and which is present in the aqueous humor. So when this aqueous humor will pass through this trabecular meshwork, there will be a disturbance, there will be a blockage, there will be a chances of not complete drainage system of the aqueous because of this meshwork, trabecular meshwork. The cell debris will get stuck here and that will lead to the obstruction in the flow. So nature has given a very wonderful mechanism here. We need to understand that first and foremost thing is the unconventional pathway. What is unconventional pathway? That means this is the area and this is the pathway that the aqueous humor will strike the iodocorneal angle, the canal of Schlemm, trabecular meshwork, then it goes to the collector channels, then aqueous veins, then episcleral vein. That is fine. But if there will be a problem, there will be an alternative pathway which is called uveoscleral pathway. So what happens in the uveoscleral pathway? The aqueous will pass through the iris, which is a kind of a semi-permeability, a semi-permeable to the aqueous humor. It will pass to the ciliary body, and here in between there is a scleral venal plexus. Scleral venal plexus which is present just above the suprachoroid space. This is the choroid, and just above the choroid there is a suprachoroidal space. So it will goes to the suprachoroidal space, and in the scleral plexus it will again merge to the episcleral vein. So this is an alternative pathway the God has provided, the nature has provided in this area. But the major concern is that the pathway, the uveoscleral pathway, that is why its name is uveoscleral pathway. There is an involvement of complete uvea in the sclera. Okay. So what I'm talking about is the flow is not as compared to the as equal comparison to the normal outflow. So the conventional pathway is somehow 90% of the drainage comes from here, and 10% of the drainage it goes from the uveoscleral pathway, but it's an alternative pathway here. The first and foremost thing, if there is any problem in this drainage mechanism, the first and foremost thing is the uveoscleral pathway. Uveoscleral pathway. And second one, which is a very important to understand, that if any kind of cell debris are present in this particular area which makes the fluid unclear, we have a macrophages. So this diagram is the magnified view here, where the plates of the Schlemm's canal are having the macrophages. So there will be a kind of phagocytosis where this all cell debris will be engulfed by this. So these are also present in the plates of the trabecular meshwork. So if there is any kind of inflammation and any kind of cell debris which are present that can be engulfed by this macrophages here with the help of phagocytosis. So these all macrophages are also present in the surface of the iris also. So that will engulf it to make the aqueous clear and to make the optical system very clear. Okay. So here we need to consider one thing, that if the number of cell debris, if the number of kind of waste products or any kind of WBC, RBCs are here in the aqueous humor, which makes the aqueous humor unclear and which are not as much as lower than the particular macrophage's capacity to engulf it, so there will be a chances of kind of obstruction here, and this trabecular meshwork is also get sclerosed, get fibrosed in the old age patients. So this trabecular meshwork, the mesh-like structure, got fibrosed and sclerosed in the old age patient. That will also lead to the obstruction, which is called the primary open angle glaucoma. So one thing what I like to include here, that this trabecular meshwork is providing a physiological resistance, a physiological resistibility to the aqueous humor production. So when the aqueous goes here, similar kind of force that will be exerted by the trabecular meshwork, the physiological resistibility, the physiological force, the physiological resistibility by this trabecular meshwork, which actually known as the intraocular pressure. And if there will be any fibrosis and kind of sclerosis that would be takes place in the old age patient of the trabecular meshwork area, which will lead to the primary open angle glaucoma. So this is all about the pathway we are discussed here, the conventional pathway, the unconventional pathway, the chances of disturbance in this aqueous flow, which will lead to the intraocular pressure, and the disturbance in the trabecular meshwork anatomical and physiological structure will lead to the primary open angle glaucoma. So I would like to conclude with this particular thing, that in the intraocular pressure raised condition, the pressure that will be exerted, suppose there is a high intraocular pressure which is exerting a force to the back surface also, and there are number of ganglionic cells which are present here. So ganglionic cells which are present here, which will be passed, and here is an optic nerve, and through the lamina cribrosa these optic nerves are passing. So here the one very important thing what we need to consider is that the nerve cell, suppose the ganglionic cell are also the nerve cell, suppose there are the dendrites are nucleus, these are the exoplasms, these are the axon bulb. So if the ganglionic cell gets the pressure of the intraocular pressure here, it will be suppressed, and the flow of the exoplasmic fluid from the ganglionic cell to the optic nerve get disturbed, and the optic nerve will get fibrosed, which is called optic atrophy later on. So this is all about, we will discuss optic atrophy later on in our next session in very detail, that what is optic atrophy when we talked about glaucoma. So here we are talking about the aqueous humor anatomical structure and the physiology, where we have seen the what is aqueous humor, what is the fluid mechanism of the eyeball, and how the aqueous produce. And in this particular session we are discussing the circulation and the drainage of the aqueous humor, and what actually happens if this drainage will get disturbed. Hope everyone will understand this. Thank you so much.